Okay, well, good evening, Richard and Anna.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. How's the job search going?
Good. I have an interview on Monday, so wish me luck on that.
Okay, you are wished luck. Good luck. Is that so that's a virtual interview or is it like a real one?
It's virtual, though I would like or prefer to have it in real life.
Yeah, it's I'm just chuckling because I'm usual thing I would say, and it's like, well, I'll tell you how to dress, all the information that you don't actually need because you know how now. But I don't know how to do a virtual interview, so good luck.
I'm pretty sure I still have to dress up because it's a video interview. So
Well, I still, yeah, you should wear an appropriate blouse, and but shorts, as long as the camera doesn't get down too low, you could have a lot of fun. You could wear slippers and shorts and a, a blouse and a tie and get away with it.
true. Or if I accidentally get up for some reason.
Yeah, then they're not interviewing you for that kind of performance. Yeah, I suppose I would, if I was in the same situation, I'd probably, I'd wear a shirt and a tie and maybe a sport coat. Because you might as well play the game as if it's a real interview. Anyway, I wish you great luck on that, and I hope that the employer is beyond impressed and offers you a multi-million-dollar signing bonus. Although that's unlikely, but I'm hoping for you. And for any of the rest of you all that are interviewing, we'll let the rest of us know how it goes, because I assume at least the rest of this class is going to want to get a job someday. So you will be our vanguard, so to speak. You must have muted yourself, but anyway, that was good body language. Okay, so see, 5 after. Let me see if Jawad emailed me, because I was concerned initially that nothing went out. Okay, so that's done. Inbox, sent. Oh, I sent it to somebody completely not the right person. Okay, my screw up. Let's see, forward. Oh, 2 W's. Okay, my bad. So somebody named Joanna Green got this link. I hope they don't join us, or maybe they do. Maybe they'll have some fun. We'll wait for Jawad to get connected, and then proceed. So what I intend to do this evening is continue the example that we started last time, and the main continuation aspect is putting the hydrographs in. After class last time, yeah, okay, I got the recorder on. After class last time, I went back and made some changes to the input file and was able to get much more stable solutions. It turns out that the solution stability was a lot better if I used a free outfall downstream boundary condition. And it actually reminds me that I think when I've done this same problem in the past, I made that last link very, very long to help dampen those waves. And when Jawad gets connected, we'll get started with that. That is a cat comb, but that looked really weird in the camera. While we're waiting on him, I'll try to get this thing up and running. It's been running good for office hours this afternoon, so it's probably going to break on us. Okay, I want swim running. And I might need LibreOffice running to be able to access files. Let me get that open in the background. And that should pretty much clobber my 512 megabytes of RAM on this computer. Okay, that's good. That's what I wanted. And let's see if we downloaded last time the Hydrographs. It looks like I didn't. So we got the geometry. Okay, so I'll have to acquire that, and I'll just go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to go back to the class web server, and there should be a file there called hydrograph.txt or CSV or something like that. I'm going to attempt to download that. I didn't even know I had a Reddit account. That's kind of interesting. There is a fourth block box. It's Mr. Jawad. Good morning to him. That's what we want. Okay, see if this will actually work for me. Choose copy, and I will go into this guy, open up a spreadsheet, possibly in my lifetime. It's not going to work quite right. Drat. See if I can open it directly this way, because it looks like I've done it once already. So go to calculate spreadsheet, file. Did any of y'all remember if last time did I copy everything into WordPad and then paste it into the spreadsheet, or did I open it directly in the spreadsheet? Although at this point I can try both. It won't take very long. And in a way that actually works out as a very good Well, next thing I do when I download the data is I probably should, oh, there we go. See, swim project, hit save. Okay, so it should be downloaded. File, open. Here goes nothing. Hopefully it knows that I want it to be treated as a spreadsheet. Ah, perfect. Yeah, that's how I wanted to parse it. So cool. Cloud computing, gotta love it. So what we want to do to modify our last example is we now want to put in time varying hydrographs. So we have a column here that's been prepared that's labeled time, which represents time. I'm going to guess in hours. And we have a Q10 and a Q14, which represent input hydrographs at the upstream end of our Confluence modeling area and at the tributary end. And so the next thing we want to do as we're trying to swim model this is we're going to go ahead and have to enter that information into swim. But recalling back to the problem in the first case, if we were writing our own program, we would have to include in our scripts some way of communicating those information into our program, and it would follow the same process that we did earlier for a hydrograph in just a rectangular channel. So this would we would use the method of characteristics along the boundary. We would convert the discharge into an equivalent depth and or velocity at the boundary cell based on the geometric information we have at location, and then use the characteristic formula to find the unknown value at the boundary. So either depth or velocity. In this example, since we have an input hydrograph, what we know is discharge, and presumably we have some starting values so we could establish initial cross-sectional area to get depth and then recover the necessary velocity. Without that starting condition, we're kind of stuck. So we have to start somewhere, and then from that we can use our depth area curves to compute what the next value should be, and then the characteristic curve to compute what the value at the boundary should be. Fortunately, the professional software makes that quite a bit easier for us, the end user, to deal with, as opposed to having to write our own scripts. Looks like I just clobbered everything. Okay, it's still hidden behind me. So let me open the last file, which should be example 5, Confluence verbs. Yeah, that was the one we were working on, I think. Picture looks right. And let's take a look at location 10. Yeah, location 10 is a constant inflow. What I left on the web server, if you all were to go and grab it, is that the outfall, I changed it to a free outfall. And I'll run the simulation with that. Everything else is the same as we did last time. It doesn't have the profiles built yet. I didn't know that didn't save the profile. That's kind of weird. We'll just do the main channel profile. And that looks like it did last time. And as we run through simulations, that's what the profile looks like. And here's what I mean by the stable. So we should have a value of 5,000 plus, looks like 1,250. So you see the wiggliness, that is fairly typical with an unsteady model. Watch what happens when we change the outfall condition from free to normal, and I'll rerun it. It's making a fool out of me with you all watching. Because before I finished this last time, as you recall, everything was all over the place. Okay, so we could play with the downstream boundary condition. We'll notice that this last node, which is our outfall node, is roughly 2,000 feet away from the area of interest. And so we have a pretty long run out in this case. So now let's go ahead and turn it into an unsteady model, because that's the whole point of using these kinds of softwares. So what we need to do is we want to change the input, in this case, from just a steady value to some time series input. And it looks like it has a few already stored with the input file. So let's just take a look at what they look like. And so here's one that starts at 2,000, goes up to 4,000, then up to 5,000, and then drops back down. And I don't really know the origin of that one. Let's see if it, oh, it's this hydrograph, right? No, it's not that one. Goes up to 4,000. It looks like it's starts at $2,000, gets up to 5. It may not be any of the examples. Starts at 2,000, gets up to, well, it's none of these. Let's go ahead and we'll go with it for the time being, but then we will go ahead and insert at least one of these hydrographs into our simulation so that we have it available. What's valuable about the program is it can save hydrographs for us, and they become part of the input file. And then later on, we can choose them from a pull-down menu. So this is a section 10 hydrograph. We're on section 10. We'll go ahead and kill off the baseline and choose OK. And then we have this notation. If the baseline or time series is left blank, its value is 0. If baseline pattern is left blank, its value is 1. So it's going to take the hydrograph and it's going to multiply it by 1 and apply it at the different time intervals. Kind of obvious. So that is our section 10. Here's section 16. And for the time being, I will leave it at its steady flow, which is somewhat unrealistic. But let's go ahead and run a simulation. So I have essentially changed what comes in at this end. And now if I rerun the simulation, and we will animate it, we can see the effect of the hydrograph. In terms of water surface elevation, it's actually not terribly interesting. But if we were to examine the flow, we'll pick that particular conduit. We should get a hydrograph representation. And to some extent we do. The hydrograph comes up, and then finally the last 50 hours or so is a flat line, which is consistent with what the hydrograph looks like. And in a practical engineering sense, we would probably run something like this that we're interested in what's going on in these two peaks. So let's turn on the other transient hydrograph, and see what it does. I will keep that graphic up. So now we will change junction 16 to use its time series. It's already stored there. And we can go take a look at it. So it's a hydrograph of a similar pattern, but it's starting at 500 and only peaks at 1300. And then comes back to 500. So our long-term simulation should be 2500. So we'll keep that one there, and let's get the other one. See, that one's down here. I'm gonna pick, actually I'll pick this location right there because I want you to be able to visualize the different hydrographs. And I haven't rerun the simulation yet, so it has the old solutions to it. And we'll pick that one right there. We'll pick that one right there. That's a conduit? Sure enough. All right, let me organize these. So here's our upstream hydrograph on the main branch. The next one's going to be our upstream hydrograph on the tributary. Let me see if I can at least get them all in the same real estate. And this one is our most downstream hydrograph. So let's ask ourselves some questions before we rerun the simulation. Let me get to line them up so they can kind of line up with time. So the graphics that's part of the free version of Swim that you can download, other than XP Swim or some other value-added stuff, they're to guide you, the analyst, into building and operating your model. If you need these for presentation purposes for client exhibits, you would actually extract the data using a table creator and plot it in whatever plotting package you have that makes really pretty plots. I've seen and done plots directly out of Swim, and I don't understand why any client would actually accept that in a final report. I would say it's totally adequate for interim reporting, but your final project report, you would want to take graphs like this and put them into a higher quality graphing package. Okay, so we know this is the upstream one because I told you so, but it's peaking in a little over 4,500. And we know this is the downstream one because it has that little over 4,500 plus the 1,500, which takes us to 6,000. So this is at least configured correctly. I am going to change my video screen because I just noticed you're watching my hand move around, and that's probably disturbing. Now you get to look at my my face in home office, which is probably just as disturbing, but at least it's not moving as much. So now let's rerun the simulation. Recall that I've actually changed what this graph should look like. I thought I did. Huh. Well, sometimes it was this one. And if I plot that, oh, it never took the change. My bad. I thought they had fixed that feature. So Swim a couple of versions ago had a bad habit of you would change the characteristics of an object and it wouldn't store the change in the input file right away like it is intended to. And so you would spend time rerunning stuff over and over again thinking you'd made a change and you didn't. And I thought the programming team had repaired that, but clearly we just did an instance where that's not the case. So keep that in mind or write that in your personal notes on driving this particular computer program. Verify that the changes are actually written to the input file. So I just forced wrote it, and now I will rerun the simulation. And we'll go look at the plots. And they are now reflecting the different input conditions. And if we examine what's going on here, we see that the flow is coming back to 500, but at one point it appears to drop below 500. And if we think of that hydraulically, what's happening is it's quite possible that there is a small scale flow reversal that is not actually captured by the computer program, but when it adds the two flows, the positive flow going down link RS12 to 11 and the backup that's occurring at the bridge, that we get these unusual excursions. This particular example problem, the cross sections are a little bit close to each other as for the computer program to produce relatively stable outputs. So we're actually operating the program at a regime it was never built to do, which is sort of ironic, but that's what we've done. And so here we have the two hydrographs combining. And if we were to go to our location of interest, so I'm moving these to make real estate to find, there we are. The probably interested in that junction, which should be on the upstream side of the bridge. And so at the highest flow, we have a computed depth of somewhere between almost 5 feet. And so if we were to look at the bottom elevation, 266 plus 5 feet is 271, which is well below the 295 feet, which was the bottom chord of the bridge that we are investigating. If we go to the point downstream of that and look at the same information, we're at 8, let's call it 9 feet so I can do the arithmetic in my head. We're at 9 feet and we're at 266 plus 9, which takes us to 275. So as far as the bridge is concerned, our system is quite capable of conveying these flows. And if we recall, I think I modified the conduit to have the abutments. If I can remember how to drive the program. Yeah, this has the bridge abutments. So we're at 279. So at this particular flow rate, our depth is somewhere right about here. Now, if you've used HEC-RAS, it's a different tool that does kind of the same thing. It's totally targeted for showing you what the water surface is at a cross section. That's what it's built to do. And so it draws this picture with where the water goes. Whereas the swim model was originally intended for a slightly different use. They're both adequate for this kind of case. What Hydrographs is not adequate for is once we start putting conduits into the system. It has culvert package in it, but trying to simulate a dendritic drainage network with subsurface conduits in Hydrographs is a fool's errand, and I would suggest that you don't want to do it. Whereas trying to simulate riverine systems with swim is doable, although it's not the best tool to do it from a end user or model building standpoint. But I selected it for this class because eventually we're going to integrate some hydrology into it. And I assure you, Hydrographs does not do integrated hydrology well at all, whereas swim was built to do it. Okay, so that's enough of my marketing pitch for the swim model. Let's continue with the example and go to the trouble to create a different input hydrograph. So let's say we want to make a new one. To do that, we put a blank there, and then we click on the edit, and that brings up a new editing window. And so what this will do is it lets us create a new hydrograph. So we'll call it section 10 because that's where it is. But we need to give it a different name than the other time series. Otherwise, we'll never be able to tell them apart, and it won't work. So section 10, I want to type Big Daddy. I don't think there's enough. There is enough bigger with 2 G's. Okay, so this is the bigger storm, spelled wrong. The spelling doesn't matter, except that if we're going to share this with a client, we want to not look like, we want them to think we're idiots for other reasons, not demonstrate it up front that we can't spell. And so now we want to enter a time series into these columns. And it's just like we've done it with some other examples. Is we go to the time and discharge window, and we'll pick this little dinky one. I really want to get that 24th hour. So this is actually not a bigger storm. This is a littler storm, but we'll go ahead and we copy that. Choose paste, and when you do copy paste with swim, you always want to check the last row because sometimes it buggers it up. And you notice by the timestamp we're using elapsed times. If the instant you introduce a calendar date and time, cutting and pasting becomes quite a bit harder. I often use HEC-HMS to generate a SCS precipitation signal to put into swim. And I have to be very creative on how I construct the date time thing so that I can actually get elapsed times. Because again, both of the programs weren't necessarily originally built for people thinking in elapsed times. They were built for calendar times because their intended end user was things like municipalities and cities, where the operators of the program would be working on what they think is real data. So that is a big deal, not just with this particular computer program, but with most professional computer programs that involve transient simulation. Is they're almost always geared around calendar date and time. And when we're doing these hypothetical things that we're doing to learn how to operate the program and as well as pick up a little bit of modeling skills for cases we can't anticipate, the hardest thing you're going to encounter now and in your future endeavors is going to be dealing with time. Despite what Mick Jagger says, it's not on your side. So let's take a look at this hydrograph. So this is a really goofy looking hydrograph. So let's comment on this. By the obvious goofiness, these are the ears of a cat, and then here's the end of the cat. I obviously made these numbers up just to have something to put in to the model to have transient behavior. Real data does indeed look as screwy as this, but this is especially screwy. So real data will often have a lot of large peaks and unexplainable valleys over a relatively short time interval, and that's just the instrumentation that was used to collect it. Doesn't have fast enough frequency response, so it misses things. But when you're using that data, you can't make the decision, did the instrument fail, or is that really a small value? The general approach is to use the data as if it were correct and then go back later and possibly sanitize it a little bit. And in the report, you would disclose that using the data that came straight out of the data logger produced unstable results. And so hour 16 of day 3 was simply removed, and the two values either side of that particular hour were averaged, and that was what was used. Everything else is data as it came out of the data logger. So that's a very common activity to have to do in actual modeling studies, is you'll have to sanitize the data. The correct and honorable thing to do is you disclose that in the report, and a good client, good from the standpoint of interested in doing the job right, will be comfortable with the raw data appearing in an appendix, the sanitized one appearing in the report that's going to be made available to the public that's ultimately paying for it. So sanitizing inputs is common. You just don't do it in secret. So we'll go ahead and use the S10 bigger storm. Hopefully I'm on node. Yeah, that looks like the correct node. So we press the okie dokie. And now we'll do the same activity with junction 16. Okay, so let's test you guys' short-term memory. I want to enter a new time series into the time series input. Currently, there's 3 of them. There's S10 bigger storm, S16 hydro, and S10 hydro. How do I enter a new time series?
Leave it blank.
Yeah, I make that go away. Then what do I do next?
Edit.
Yeah, click on the edit time series, and good to go. You all pass. Your collective short-term memory is excellent. Unlike the freshman class this morning, where the opposite was true, although I don't think they were awake yet. Because most of the discussion was, well, I have another test tomorrow at 8 in the morning, and it's like, why is that my problem? You picked the schedule. That's mean. They didn't pick the schedule. The university picks the schedule. But I said, we have a 3-hour class, and the test is 50 minutes long. I think you all be just fine. So don't get all stressed. But I actually forget what it was to be a 20-year-old student. that was 40 years ago for me. So I don't have the correct sympathy because it's been so long that I have no comprehension. So I just shut up and said, well, you'll have plenty of opportunity. You'll be fine. I don't know how effective my soothing was for him, but we'll see tomorrow. I think they'll be fine. It's a 20-question test, and I'm actually going to take 2 questions off of it tonight because I asked them the same question again on a take-home exam, and it dawned on me that that's really stupid. So I'll take it off the in-class exam, so they only have 18 questions. Their life is better. Okay, so now that I have done a completely goofy tangent, the next thing we're going to want to do is we want to get the discharge. So now we're going to do this one column at a time. And the reason I'm doing that is because the columns are not adjacent to each other. And Swim, sadly, is not that bright of a program. So I'm going to copy that column. And we'll put it into the value column. Hit paste, and hopefully that was correct. Go back to our parsed data file. Copy that. Hit paste. Damn it. Practice our profanity, because as a computer modeler, you need to do a lot of profanity. We will now copy the correct data. And hopefully it will let me clobber what's already there. Oh, that was too easy. And there is the other input, and this is clearly some direct proportion of the S10 bigger. Oh, crikeys! I didn't save it. That's the other thing that will happen from time to time. S16. So cancel and OK are a little bit too close to each other, and that happens from time to time. I must have hit cancel. Based on the TV news, that makes me a leading member of cancel culture. That's why I did it. Oh, come on. That was actually funny, guys. I should at least get a courtesy chuckle out of it. The computer has canceled me by not copy. Time series name, S16 bigger. Hit OK. Hit OK. And now we have the 2 time series, and then running it is at this point trivial. We hit the lightning bolt, we wait, and we look at our outputs, and they should look similar in shape but different in magnitude. 12, 11. Yeah, this is the. So this is the one that still kind of looks like the cat. Here's the upstream one, different magnitude, and we've now combined the 2 at the downstream end. And unlike a hydrology program such as HEC-HMS, this combined flow isn't just a hydrograph. We also have the ability to recover flow depths based on the geometry, although I can't do it if I can't find the right deal. So we could take this last section, let's say it was important to know what the flow depth there was, and change the object to depth, choose the okie dokie, and it's now telling us depth above the bottom of the channel. So somewhere 2.5 feet, and that would mean that it is either 2.5 feet above 265. So at that particular portion of channel, we're at 267 feet for the water surface elevation. Hopefully that was the channel. Yeah, there's the conduit. We're at 267 feet. And I wanted to go look at the actual picture of the channel. Okay, so click on that. There we go. So our flow depth is mostly everything's contained down in here. And that makes sense because that particular hydrograph was relatively small compared to the other examples. So now let's go ahead and hit it with the really big hydrograph, which is stored as unsteady cases -2. I think at this point, we're almost to the point where you guys would be able to build one of these on your own if you had to. And we will create that opportunity in the near future. So we will download unsteady cases 2, and we already have figured out a way to open them, which is go into Calc. Hopefully I've actually downloaded it. I may have forgotten that because I am. Choose open. And it will parse it. See, it looks like it's parsing that correctly. And now this one, now runs for 99 hours. So we're not necessarily restricted to 24 hours. I'm actually kind of curious how this one is going to behave. So I want to grab those two, and we would just follow the same procedure as we've done already. Choose copy, go to swim. Decide where we're going to put it. Actually, let me do an interim method. So we have that saved in the clipboard. Another way to enter data in Swim is actually to directly edit the input file. And at the risk of screwing up our example, I will attempt to show you how you would do that. So this is our input file. We can open it with Notepad, which is just an ordinary text editor. And here's what the input file looks like. Let's go. Here's our cross-section information. And if you are familiar with HEC2, which predates HEC-RAS, these are what the cross-section input cards look like. So this is entirely compatible with very old data sets. And that too was by design. But here's what a time series looks like. So while it's not trivial, it's pretty simple to see how you can construct a time series directly in the input file. We're going to try that right now. So that's S16 Hydro. And let's see if we can pick up the pattern. So the pattern is a string which gives us the name of the time series, a time category, and a value category. So we'll go back to our spreadsheet. Let's insert a column. Come on, tell me how to insert a column. I don't see it right there. Insert columns after. Scheiße. Insert columns before. Insert before. So I need a string, a space, insert, dang it, where'd it go? I can't see it again. It was just there, wasn't it? I'm not hallucinating, am I?
Just right-click the column.
Okay, I'll give that a try. Thank you. Thank you very much. Crap. Right-click the column. There we go. Okay, so this will be our flow. This will be our time. It'll be a blank column, and then this is going to be the string. So let's see, we want to name this one. This will be section 16 long, for lack of a very creative name. Hit copy. And at some point, we'll get down to the bottom. Oh, this is not, that was not a correct command. Hit paste. Oh, you copy. Yeah. I was doing something wrong. So this particular LibreOffice is a pretty good rendition of late 1990s, early 2000s Microsoft Office. So if you're familiar with that from, I guess for you guys, that would be high school era for you, just judging from how old you look on your video. Those techniques would work here. They put a lot of effort into not being a direct copy of Microsoft because they want to keep the evil Microsoft empire off their backs so they can continue to reverse engineer stuff for cheapskates like me who don't want to pay the subscription for Office 365 on a cloud computer. Okay, so in theory, we should be able to grab that and drop it directly into our swim input file. And if you are working on a particular model, say you're modeling Aurora, Colorado, that's your job at your company someday. After you've spent some time with the computer program, you will get to where for a particular location, it's often faster to do direct entry into the file, except it just deceived me. Oh, have I locked it up? Undo, that's what I want. I want undo. Wonder why that didn't paste properly. Copy that, go to the input file, insert the okay, so that was fine. Let's see if we can do a couple rows at once. We'll try 4. Copy. I must have screwed something up the last example. And now we'll go ahead and we'll try to copy the rest of it. And let's see if we can have a blank line between card input sections. Yeah, it looks like you can. So I think we have just entered our S16 long hydrograph. We'll go ahead and save the input file. We'll go back here, go to swim. Now we have to reload the input file. So the one we just, hopefully the one I just saved to was this. And let's see if we actually have that new time series. We have S16 long, but because I didn't save the input file, we lost the S16 bigger. So direct editing of the input file or using the input editor produces the same result. Let me go ahead and save this input file. Click on the icon for save. So now S16 long is there, and we can go ahead and put in our other time series that we want. We'll do it what's by far the easy way. Let's get S10 long first while we have it already built up. And then remember me to save everything to the server so that you guys can copy it directly without having to go through this yourself. So this is S10 long. We'll assign S10 up here. Save the input file so all of our changes are now preserved with the input file. So as you're building these, the .inp file is one of several files that it creates. That thing becomes extremely valuable because for right now it represents 40 minutes of work that I've just been demonstrating. So run the simulation. Oh, and that's right, because I reloaded the input file. I lose my profile. So I'll just make a new one. So there's my cross-section profile. As I recall, this is not a very big flow rate. So we barely even see any change in it. Make sure I ran it. I did. So the water comes up. A little more, wiggles around a bit, and it's done. Okay, well that constitutes a demonstration of this particular problem. Now let's go ahead and really challenge the program with some decent flows. So I'd say let's make these things 10 times bigger. And that is easy enough. Little tricks with LibreOffice. So now I've just made that column big enough, and here's the trick I'm going to play. I'm going to copy that, go here, choose paste special, and oh, I'm not sure it's going to let me clobber it. Yeah. Oh, that's a shame. It does not work. the way I expected it to. Where's the undo button? So I wonder if you can reformat a cell.
I think you can, like when you were pasting, you can do paste special.
I did do paste special, and it didn't give me the option to paste values. This is one of the tricks of the cloud computing. We got to remember that this is not Excel.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It has all the features of Excel, but it's not documented. And they go, like I said, they go to a lot of trouble to kind of fly low under the radar. Yes, I'm teaching you people how to use software that's really, really inexpensive. Because some days you're going to own companies, and I hope that you leave not being comfortable with paying a lot of money for software that you don't need to pay money for. Is this better than Microsoft? No. Is it faster? Obviously not. Is it cheaper? Oh yeah. And wouldn't you rather spend the money on your employees than on enriching the Microsoft corporation? And that's up to you. I mean, when you run your company, you make your decision. We're doing it because I'm too cheap to buy commercial software when I don't have to. And the other benefit it confers is we actually got to really get up to our armpits in what we're doing. So I'm going to try that paste special one more time and see if I didn't miss something. So I'm going to copy that and go to just that window. There's paste special. And I don't want to paste the formula. Wonder what happens if I click on number. You're pasting data into cells that already contain data. That is correct. That's it. That's what we want to do. Paste special, choose number. If you're familiar with Excel, in Excel, it's paste special, choose value.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Paste special, choose number. Sweet. So now we will replace that. Oh, it sounds like I have a cat in the background that's tired of waiting. They were good this morning. They both came here, and I have 3 cats, but only 2 of them are out at once ever. Usually they get onto the keyboard and then just plop there, often on the space key, sometimes on the enter key, and then I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with the computer. And what's wrong with the computer is there's a 25-pound fur-encased beast on the keyboard. But today they slept on the, there's a futon right to my left. They both curled up and slept on that for 3 hours. And it's like, guys, this is how you should do it all the time. And we all go to work. And if I get any phone calls, I'll just hand them to you and they can be my customer service. Okay, so we want to copy this. And we will paste that into we'll use the editor because it's that's I'm just going to call it case 3. And so now it's got a pretty substantial input. All right, we're good to go now. And if we wanted to, we could save the input, rerun the program. And remember, our tributary is still dinky. Oh, I killed my, let's just pick one of these conduits. Let's look at the flow. Sure enough, there's pretty substantial flow up to I thought those would have been 20,000. Maybe I that's weird. Maybe I put it at the wrong place. S10 case 3. And after this, we're pretty much done with this particular problem, and you've seen an example. And then next time, we're going to do a tributary that's physically larger. But we've now set up the conditions, or how you actually build one of these, which was my point. And hopefully that actually now has some substantial flow. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm after. So now we've got, at some point, we have 45,000. I think this is in cubic meters per second. Oh, that's why nothing was working right. It's in the wrong units. Oh, and now it's got to resize the window. I'm sort of laughing at it, but I'm also kind of really, oh, you know, cubic feet per second is the right units. I've deceived myself. Let's go look at the flow depth at this last location, or we can look at the we'll look at the flow depth in the last location. So we're now, you know, getting up to 18 feet of flow depth, but that's out there in the open channel. That's not a big deal. Let's look just downstream of the bridge. So that's over 20 feet. And if you recall, our 295 feet was our magic number. So 266 plus 20 feet is 286. So we're just barely making it under the bridge. There's only 4 feet of freeboard. So if you were in your inner tube with a cooler full of beverages floating down this river, you'd be a fool. But you'd only have 4 feet between your bottom of your butt and the top of the bridge. And so if you were to sit upright enough in that inner tube, you would become the headless tuber. So that's how we use a tool like this. So are there any questions on this? Otherwise, I'm going to save this input file. And I'll put it back to the server because it's just saved locally right now. And then next time we're going to look at a very similar problem, except we're going to move to a different location. It'll be a real location in Houston, Texas, and we'll have real hydrographs, and we will actually basically try to re-replicate the problem. And then we're going to move into quasi two-dimensional overland flows. And do you want a homework assignment on one of these? It's okay if you say no, because I'll probably do one anyway, but it feels better if you play along. Let's see, that's my local one. I'm going to go put that input file back up to the server. Okay, so it should be in Terry's. Oh, and I saved the password. Oh, work. Oh, sweet. Every now and then it works the way you want it to. although something else is likely to break. So this should be back on the class server. And let me rename this. Okay, I'll just leave that be. And now I got to find my local copy, which is that one. Okay, so I'm going to slightly change the name of this. So there is a copy if you all want to try it on your, if you want to download it and run exactly what I've done this evening. So to summarize what we've done in the last couple of meetings, so we have set aside our homegrown stuff for the time being, and we'll only revisit that if we encounter a case where we need to write our own scripts to manipulate some data. Because generally it makes more sense to use already built tools to manipulate data. But sometimes you get situations where the description you're trying to create is too complicated to do in an Excel spreadsheet, and it's not structured enough to do it directly in SWIM. You have to put a little bit of your own creativity into it to get your input data built. So we learn how to do that. And in this case, we learned how to do tributary modeling, which is not that hard in SWIM. The trick is the conceptual connectivity. And as a way of instructive advice, it's usually best to draw everything out on a piece of paper and use that to help come up with your naming convention for conduits and for junctions. And possibly have a real map to decide how you're going to connect a tributary into your main channel. You have freedom there as the analyst and the engineer. I mean, this is a creative activity. We've now learned how to change input flow conditions using the time series input feature that is part of the junction. I also showed you how to do input directly in the input file, but I'll reiterate that's an advanced technique. It's not something that as you're learning this, or if you don't use the software a lot, I wouldn't become overly dependent on that, because it's fairly easy to break an input file that was working and not actually figure out what the last step you did before you broke it was. You'll notice that I think I copied the file before I started to go breaking things. And this particular software doesn't automatically make copies. Every change you make, it changes the input file right then and there. So if you want to keep stuff as static copies, you have to do that ahead of time. So we've got unsteady inputs. We looked at boundary conditions and we ran it. So what we'll pick up next time is a similar situation, except we're going to look at a different locale. It's actually almost the same configuration. It's a main channel and a tributary. Only unlike this one, the main channel is Buffalo Bayou and the tributary is White Oak Bayou, and they're roughly geometrically about the same size. And the White Oak Bayou is twice as steep as Buffalo Bayou, but 2 times 0 is still pretty much 0. And so there is a lot of momentum coming in that case, and it makes the behavior change. We also learned how to do control rules in SWIM, which is what we use to do for cases where we have abrupt changes in behavior. You remember control rules? This is testing your longer term memory. That was a yes or no question. Sure we do, Dr. Cleveland. Yeah, you talked about it a few days ago. No problem. We can figure out. When did we use control rules? Anyone remember? When Kim Il-jong did what? He blew up his mountain and filled the channel with rocks, and it caused an abrupt change in downstream flow rate. And so we used a control rule to basically turn off a conduit and watched how it backed up throughout the rest of the system. And that's a somewhat extreme, arguably absurd use of a control rule, but the point was to illustrate how. So we have a lot of the pieces of the modeling tool that we need for any imaginable situation that we're going to explore. And what we'll do on Monday is we'll look at the Buffalo Bayou case, and we'll get it set up, get it started, and then your homework assignment will be to finish that particular one. I'll go ahead and get a write-up made that has a description of what to do and deliverables. And then we're going to next move into integrating the hydrology portion, because all we've done right now is hydraulics. And well, that's a valuable thing. What makes it more valuable is the ability to directly integrate hydrologic response and hydraulic response and examine how that behaves in any system that we want to study. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll go read about the water quality features in SWIM, and we'll start to introduce pollutants into our rainfall and study how pollutants go. And that pretty much beats to death surface water modeling, as one is likely to have to practice it in the near future, next 10 or 15 years of your careers. So if there's no questions, I am done for tonight, and I will wish you all a good weekend. And the weather has decided to be warmer the next few days, which would be a good thing. I'm going to go contract COVID tomorrow. I'll go get my shot tomorrow. Get shot tomorrow. That's funny. And so my wife says that the first one isn't bad. The second one made her sick for 2 days. So this is my first one. So I will probably be around on Monday. And for you all, have a good weekend. Be careful. Don't get COVID. I went to my doctor yesterday, and his advice and his assistant's advice, well, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. We'll get some other stuff tested. Don't get COVID. It's like, well, how do I not get COVID? I don't know.
Dr. Cleveland?
Yeah.
Can you upload the lecture video 10?
Lecture 10. I thought I'd done that. I'll go look.
Oh, I searched on the black there.
Let me take a look. Make sure I get into the right Blackboard. Are you in? Are you? I think you are this section 10. Let me turn off the sharing because I don't want to do a FERPA violation here.
I'm in this section.
I mean, I know there's only 4 of y'all, so I'll be able to tell in a second. Yeah, you're in this section. Okay, let me turn the sharing back on. Oh, that just completely undid what I was trying to avoid. There we go. So lesson 10, right? Oh, sure enough, there is no lesson 10 lecture post. Let me check lesson 9. I will go find where lesson 10 is and get the video posted. Thank you for telling me that again. I know this is the second time you've told me to do it.
No, it's fine. And Dr. Cleveland, I had just another question regarding that. Ask it now or later?
Go ahead, now it's good. Because if you have a question, maybe the other 3 do, although they're starting to fade fast. Go ahead.
Okay. So in case 2, you have asked to start the flow depth artificially large. So in the question, initially it was 8 meters. So by artificially large, if I take very higher value, so I don't reach the equilibrium condition around the 6,000 seconds that I have considered initially. So by artificially large depth, do you refer something around the given height or like excessively high?
You want it to be larger than normal depth, but
Oh.
not excessively high. That was misinterpreted.
Oh, okay, okay.
Although what I wrote clearly, I could see how anybody could read that, and so artificially high, I'll make it 1,000. That will work against you. What I did in the example is whatever the downstream control depth was, maybe it was 8 meters.
Yes, yes.
I would,
in the question, it's 8 meter, but in the class, I guess it was around 9.17 meters, I guess, including the critical height depth.
yeah, but correct. But that would be what I would do is artificially high, is take the downstream depth and either use that depth or use a number that's a little bigger than that, and that
Okay.
to get everything started.
Okay.
Doing steady flow and swim is tricky in the first place because it's not really built to do that. But it has something that Hydrographs doesn't. When we get to systems that are looped or interconnected, like two-dimensional overland flow, swim really shines at that. It's really good at doing that. So everything you deal with, you have to accept that nothing's as good as it's marketed. Nevertheless, even though it's not the best, it produces meaningful results. I mean, I would certainly personally be comfortable in doing hydraulic design using swim, and if it was predicting things that were within a few inches of failure, I would be concerned because none of these models were that good. But if it said I had 3 feet of freeboard beneath the bridge, I'd be totally comfortable that if the flows that I were using were probabilistically acceptable, I wouldn't have any worry. And I would go ahead and sign and stamp the plans and move on with my career.
Yeah, understood.
So when you get to inches of something, be concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all for tonight. I will see you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland.
Have a good weekend, guys.
And you keep working on the project, the one project, and we'll get another one up and running when the time is ready.
Okay. Have a good weekend.
Okay, bye-bye.